What would happen if I jumped in front of that oncoming train? Would I die quickly or get severed in half only to experience my last few moments of life in agony? How about I take this rock and smash the nearest couple of windows? Should I use my keys to scratch my initials into that parked car? Perhaps I'll just jump off the top of this building and turn myself into minced meat as I collide with the streets below. These aren't the intrusive thoughts we all struggle with on occasion, but they're transient, momentary lapses that we can't explain. While it's perfectly natural to have these thoughts, very few people act on them. Some have named this phenomenon the call of the void, or l'appel du vide, while professionals refer to it as suicidal ideation. Depression and stress can increase these fleeting ideas, even to the point where some follow through, but that doesn't explain why seemingly healthy people experience them all the same. Some believe it's a way of controlling our own destinies in moments of uncertainty, while others solely deem these thoughts to be symptoms of mental disorders. But they're wrong. Every single one of them. And I know the truth. Ever since I was a kid, I struggled with tons of intrusive ideas. While my mother was still alive, she always comforted me with the simple idea that each little evil whisper came from the demon on my shoulder, but that I had an equally strong angel protecting me from these bad thoughts. It began as benign whispers, too quiet to comprehend, but the ideas behind them turned into the thoughts and compulsions. I'd randomly get the urge to throw my phone in the ocean, or to jump down from insanely high places, or just punch things. But as it usually goes for most people, I never once acted on these urges. But as I reached my teenage years, these whispers turned into clear voices. For the first time, I could actually understand some of them, dragging me to answer the call of the void. I kept ignoring them, knowing that they were little more than thoughts that couldn't control me. But as I got older, they kept getting louder, and louder, and louder. What had been faint sounds turned into quiet whispers, and whispers to voices. By the time I'd reached my 20s, they were almost yelling at me. There were at least 2 of them, but only one I could fully understand. The one urging me to just end myself. It was always the same tone, ordering me to commit senseless, stupid, and oftentimes dangerous acts. When I finally turned to a therapist for help, the idea of schizophrenia was quickly suggested. But because I wasn't deemed a threat to others or suicidal, I was just given a few pills and sent on my way. But they didn't work. Why would they? I wasn't even sick. I was just one of the very few people on Earth capable of hearing the voices that give us these sick urges. For most people, the call of the void only presents itself as a second-long thought, quickly ignored and forgotten. A few years passed with orders and urges thrown at me throughout each and every day. Week by week, they got louder, and I was given a cocktail of different medications to try to phase them out. "Push that lady onto the road," it would yell. "Slam your head against the wall." The medications never worked. It wasn't that I didn't believe in them, it just didn't think I was sick. So, when traditional medicine failed, I started to look for alternatives. I first sought out like-minded people, someone who understood my ordeal. I know enough about the call of the void to know that even healthy people felt it, but I needed to know someone who also heard the voices. I went from forum to forum and visited psychics as I tried out all the possible aspects of alternative medicine. It wasn't until about a month into my search before I found a single user online who claimed to be in the same boat as me, and it all started with a simple message. "You hear them too, huh?" an anonymous user posted. By then I'd been lied to a fair bit, so their initial claim made me feel somewhat skeptical. Usually the people who talked about the voices were either trolls or just mentally ill. "I hear something," I said, not wanting to give them too much information. "What exactly do you hear?" Suggestions, orders, commands, ones that quickly turn to urges. But so far I haven't done anything stupid. "Do you know how many people kill themselves each year?" they asked. "No, I don't," I typed back, almost intrigued by the random question. 1 million people. It's a tragedy, and I'm not trying to minimize the suicide pandemic that's ravaging the world, but how many of them never showed any sign of depression or struggle? How many people, seemingly happy, just decided to end their own existence for no apparent reason? They asked in a hail of questions. "People don't always show what they feel," I argued back. "Everyone is fighting a battle, and we almost never know about it." "Right you are, but you think that's always the case?" "I suppose not. It's the voices. the urges, the call of the void. Not everyone manages to ignore them. Some are just taken in a moment of weakness, they explained. Do you know anyone else who heard the voices? I asked. I knew a few, he said. Knew? I asked, scared about the implication of a simple past tense word. Well, once you start hearing them, they'll just keep getting louder and louder, and they're not going to stop until you, well, answer the call. By then, I'd almost completely lost my defensive facade. If the anonymous user was telling me the truth, I had to find a way to stop them. As annoying as the constant noise was, I loved life, and I had no intention of willingly ending it. How can we stop them? I asked, getting desperate. I only know about one guy who ever succeeded. He was given a kind of pill. No idea what was inside, but apparently it worked. Haven't heard from him in months, though. Last thing he ever sent me before falling off the grid was, "It worked. Goodbye." I tried to contact him again, but he was just gone. His disappearance should have worried me, but the fact that it had worked was the only fact that mattered to me. Do you know where he got the pill? I asked. Yeah, I'll give you the contact information. I can't speak for its efficacy, though, or if it's even real. Could be a scam. And I'm not rich or connected enough to get my hands on it, but if I give you the info, I need you to promise me something. What? I asked. If it works, I need to know. I can't take these screams much longer. I'm on the edge to just give into these urges. Please, I'm begging you, they said. If I end up giving it a go, I promise to let you know. Thank you. What's your name, anyway? It doesn't matter. I just want to live in peace. Please. A part of me expected it to be some sort of elaborate scam, but the way the anonymous user described the symptoms to a T couldn't be a coincidence. For whatever reason, I trusted them. Regardless of whether or not they were telling the truth, I couldn't go on living like that. Scam or not, I needed to give it a shot. The process of ordering the pill was a surprisingly simple task, taking place via email. I wasn't given instructions or anything, nor was I given a company name. For all I knew, it could have been a cyanide capsule, but I didn't care. But the voices were getting increasingly aware of my plan, and one of them was starting to fight back. You're making a mistake. Don't do this, it said. As always, I chose to ignore the orders given to me. I had ordered the obscenely expensive pill, and all that was left to do was wait. All the while, the voice, which seemed softer than before, begged me to stop and reconsider. But the pleas were overwhelmed by the calls to kill myself, and thus fell on deaf ears. 3 days passed before the pill arrived, but before I decided to actually ingest it, I messaged the anonymous user again. So I got the pill, I started. I'm not too sure about this, but I can't go on living with these voices. Even if it doesn't work, I just need to do something. But they never responded again. I waited, hiding the pill away in a drawer, begging for a response, only so that I didn't have to go through it alone. But they were just gone. Are you still there? I asked. Nothing. Left in solitude, without a single soul to understand me, I decided to take the pill. Scam or not, I was left without any other choice. I swallowed the pill and sat down on my bed. I wasn't sure how long it would take for it to work. After all, it didn't come with any instructions. But before the voices even started to fade, the world around me turned to darkness, and I passed out on the bed, falling into a dreamless slumber. Minutes turned to hours, and hours to an infinity of peace, and I would only awake when the tiniest voice called me back to reality. Hello? It said. But the voice wasn't coming from inside my head. It was coming from someone inside my room. Are you awake? It was the voice of a young girl, sounding almost resentful. I sat up in bed and let my eyes adjust to the harsh light of day. Who's there? I asked. Then I saw her. A bald little girl in a sunflower dress. She couldn't have been older than 8. Who are you? How did you get in here? I asked, confused but not actually worried about her presence. I was absolutely certain I'd never seen her before, yet she seemed oddly familiar. What do you mean? I've always been here, she chuckled. I've been looking out for you since you were a kid. Looking out for me? I trailed off. There was a second voice coming from inside my room, harsh and full of malice. It was ordering me to jump through the window, to end my miserable existence on Earth. I spun around to look for it, but I could only catch mere glimpses of a dark figure in my periphery. I felt my heartbeat quicken as panic rose within my body. The urge to follow through with the orders was getting unbearable. I could feel my body starting to move without me giving the command. I was going to jump, and no matter how hard I tried to resist it, I couldn't halt myself. That was until the girl spoke. "Stop," she said calmly. And I did. With that single word, I instantly calmed down, ignoring the malicious voice trying to kill me. That's when it dawned on me why I'd always heard several voices. She had been the second one, quieter, undecipherable, but powerful nonetheless. She was the one that let me ignore the intrusive thoughts. She was the one that had kept me safe. "You remember me now?" she asked with a smile. "I guess I do, but I don't understand what's going on," I said. "How am I seeing you?" "I'm a bit flabbergasted myself," she said. "People don't usually see their guardians. That pill you took usually just disconnects us, both myself and the Umbra. It leaves you completely alone." "The Umbra?" I asked. "The one telling you to do terrible things," she explained. "He's my adversary, my nemesis of a sort. Everyone has two, but they're usually in the background creating balance. Only a small fraction of humans can hear the voices like you did, and most of them don't survive. The people that try to remove the voices never survive. No one except for you, Ollie." No one had called me Ollie since my mother died, and though I didn't like the nickname, it made me feel oddly safe. Still, I could only sit there frozen in place. I'd expected peace, not a manifestation of the voices inside my head. I started to doubt the reality of my own situation, considering whether I'd been crazy all along, or if the pill had me stumbling over the edge of sanity. But I still heard the evil voice commanding me to kill myself. "You'll be fine. You don't have to listen to him," she said. A few words that instantly made me relax. "Why didn't the pill work?" I asked. "You should be happy the pill didn't work as intended. When people are cut off from their impulses, they're left hollowed out. It's like ripping a part of your soul out. You'll lose everything that makes you, well, you," she explained. "So what do I do now?" "I don't know. This has never happened before." "It's kind of exciting though, isn't it?" she asked. "Not exactly the word I'd use, but it's definitely new. I don't really get why I can't see the other guy though. It's like he's always standing behind me," I said. "That's because he is standing behind you. And trust me, you don't want to see him. As I explained, this has never happened before, but Our conversation was cut short as I heard someone yelling from outside. "Jump in front of the car," a hoarse voice yelled. I ran to the window and glanced onto the street. An elderly man was walking absent-mindedly on the sidewalk. By his side stood a grotesquely thin child, covered in dark spikes. He was yelling at the man, similar to the voices in my head. On the other side was another boy, just holding on to his arm, seemingly negating the horrible calls from the other one. The man seemed unaware of the argument going around him, blissfully ignorant. "You can see them?" the girl asked. "Yeah. Are they—" "Yes," she answered prematurely, knowing exactly what I was about to ask. "Everyone has them, but no one can hear them, much less see them. We appear as brief thoughts or impulses, nothing that can't be overcome by willpower, only if you are unbalanced enough to suffer from us." I stood by the window in awe. A whole new world had opened up for me, but the shock of a new reality had rendered me unable to make a single decision. "How about we go for a walk?" the girl suggested. We took a stroll downtown to an adequately populated area. For each person we met, I saw two entities following them, always in balance. The Guardian and the Umbra were arguing like the angel and devil that supposedly guide each and every decision we make. Balance is all that matters. I'm not here to destroy my nemesis. That's not my purpose. I'm just here to keep him in check, she explained. As we walked, I noticed a sickly-looking woman in her mid-40s standing at one of the tram stops. She stared almost longingly onto the tracks, as if considering stepping onto the tracks just a tad too early. Unlike the rest of the people, her Umbra was significantly larger than her Guardian. "When there's a lack of balance, life can't thrive," the girl said. "That woman is not going to make it." I stared at her, not caring whether or not people would notice my gaze. I only felt the desperate need to help her, but I hadn't had the faintest idea how. "Just talk to her," the girl said. "How did you know what I was thinking? Please tell me you can't read my mind." She chuckled. "No, but I've known you since you were a kid. I always know what you're thinking." "What do I say?" I asked. "Just show her that you understand." With a little push, I walked over to the woman. I had no intelligent speech prepared, nor did I have any proper words of comfort. I just awkwardly tapped the woman on the shoulder and straight up told her that I could hear them too. Her eyes lit up with a mixture of many emotions: fear, confusion, but hope. She was just desperate enough to trust me and gladly joined me on the walk through the city. I explained to her the basic idea behind the entities that follow us. All the while, my guardian kept her Umbra at bay, allowing her a moment's rest. She kept quiet for most of the walk and just listened in awe. My wording wasn't elegant, nor did I seem confident in my explanations, but I knew she'd understand, because she heard the voices too. Had it been anyone else, I'd be locked up in a mental institution. We walked for hours, and at the end of our talk, she seemed just ever so slightly relieved. Her guardian had gained some strength during our interaction, and her Umbra had weakened. Before our ways parted, I gave her my number, should she ever need a bit of support. Today she lives, thanks to you. You just saved a life, Ollie, my guardian said. From a single talk? No, of course not. She's still not balanced and might never be, but now she knows that there are people like herself, and it could be the little push she needs to keep fighting. We can't heal people. We can just support them. Then as we walked home, I realized just how little my Umbra bothered me. It was as if his voice had faded into the background, meek and pointless. I had found a purpose, and it was enough to ignore the impulses. You know what to do now? The girl asked. I nodded. Then let's go help the next one. Thank you all for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Also, don't forget to turn on my notifications so you can be the first to watch every video I put out.